Some of you are walking around carrying stress, fear, and anxiety about what's going to happen next week, next month, or next year. You are exhausting yourself over situations that haven't even happened. You are spending your strength trying to predict the future instead of living in the power God has already given you for today. That weight on your shoulders, that's not yours to carry. You were never meant to handle the future. That job belongs to God. When you wake up in the morning and your mind is already running to next week's problems, you have already stepped out of your grace zone. The grace God gave you is for today, not for a future you haven't even lived yet. That's why you feel overwhelmed. That's why you are drained. You are trying to operate in a time frame God didn't assign to you. Today has its challenges, its own victories, and its own blessings. You can't borrow tomorrow's trouble and expect to live in peace. It's like trying to carry luggage for a trip you haven't even booked. Imagine walking through the airport, dragging a suitcase for a flight you haven't bought a ticket for. That's what worrying about tomorrow looks like. You are burdening yourself with issues that aren't even real yet. You are robbing today of its opportunity because you are afraid of a possibility that may never come to pass. There's freedom in letting go of control. You think you are being responsible by planning for every detail, but there's a difference between planning and carrying. God expects you to prepare, but he doesn't expect you to be weighed down. Trust means you can let go of the outcome and still walk confidently. Trust means you know who's handling your tomorrow while you are handling your today. You don't get peace by figuring it all out. You get peace by handing it over. Peace comes when you say, God, I can't control what's going to happen, but I know you are already there. Peace isn't found in knowing the future. It's found in knowing God holds it. You weren't built to be anxious. You were built to live free, to walk light, and to keep moving forward with faith. Worry is heavy. It wears you down. It slows your progress. Some people haven't moved in years because they have been paralyzed by what might happen tomorrow. They have been stuck in neutral, waiting for perfect clarity before taking a step. But life doesn't work like that. You have got to move with faith, not full information. You have got to trust that even if you don't see the whole staircase, the next step is solid. So the next time you feel the weight of tomorrow creeping in, remind yourself, this load doesn't belong to me. I'm not the author of time. I'm not the keeper of the future, and I'm not the one writing the story. My responsibility is today, and God's got tomorrow in his hands. You are living in the middle of a script that's already been written. You are stressing about the next scene, but God's already seen the whole movie. Before you took your first breath, God knew every twist, every turn, every high, and every low. Nothing you face catches him by surprise. He's not scrambling to fix things. He's not panicking over your problems. He's the author, and he's already written the victory. Think about a good author. When they write a story, they know how it ends before the first chapter is ever printed. They might let the characters go through drama, setbacks, and struggles, but they already know the resolution. That's how God operates. He knows how this plays out. You are in the dark about tomorrow, but he's already written the conclusion. We waste so much energy trying to edit the story. We want to skip the hard parts. We want to fast forward through the pain and get to the promise, but growth doesn't happen that way. God's script includes every moment found or a reason. Even the chapters you want to tear out are doing something in you. They are building something in your character. They are setting you up for the next scene. You don't need to know every detail to trust the author. If you knew every challenge ahead, you might not move forward. If you saw every detour, you might sit still. That's why God doesn't reveal the whole script. He gives you enough for today. He gives you just enough light for the next step because he wants you to walk by faith, not by sight. The problem is we want to be the writer and the actor. We want to call the shots, control the outcomes, and set the timelines. But that's not our job. Your role is to trust the author and live the part he's given you with excellence. Your job is to stay faithful in your scene and trust that the ending has already been handled. When life gets uncertain, when things feel out of control, remember, this is just one scene. It's not the whole story. Just because this chapter is hard doesn't mean the book ends in defeat. Some of the best stories have the darkest moments right before the breakthrough. God's not done writing. You may not understand why you are in this moment, but you can trust that it's part of something bigger. You can trust that even when the script doesn't make sense, the author knows what he's doing. Your story isn't over, and the best scenes are still to come. Worrying is like paying interest on a debt you don't even owe yet. You are sitting in today, but your mind is running wild into tomorrow, playing out every worst case scenario. And while you are busy forecasting disasters that haven't happened, life is happening right in front of you, and you are missing it. You are too distracted by the what ifs to see the what is. Joy isn't something that's found in a perfect future. It's found in appreciating the blessings of now. You can't experience peace if your thoughts are constantly in the future. The more you obsess over tomorrow, the less you can enjoy the present. It's like trying to watch a movie while you are busy reading the reviews of the sequel. You are so fixated on what's next that you forget to live in what's now. Every moment spent worrying is a moment stolen from your present happiness. It's a thief that robs your peace, drains your energy, and blinds you to the good that's already here. Worry gives you the illusion of control. You think by stressing over tomorrow, you are somehow preparing for it. But in reality, you are just wasting today's strength on imaginary problems. God didn't create you to live in tomorrow's troubles. He gives you fresh grace for each day. When you stretch that grace into days it wasn't designed for, you will always feel overwhelmed. You will always feel like you are carrying more than you should. Think about this. Worry changes nothing about tomorrow, but it changes everything about today. It ruins your mood. It clouds your judgment. It makes you snappy with people who didn't even do anything. It keeps you up at night, tossing and turning over situations that God already has under control. The only thing that worries me is good at stealing your joy. It's a joy thief, and every time you let it in, it takes more than it gives. Life is short, and the joy of today is something you can never get back once it's gone. You don't get a refund on wasted days. You don't get to replay moments you were too anxious to enjoy. That's why learning to stay present is so important. You have got to anchor yourself in today. You have got to decide that today's peace is more valuable than tomorrow's fear. Every moment you are fully present in today is a moment you win against worry. Worry keeps you trapped in a cycle of what ifs that lead nowhere. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if they leave? But those what ifs are endless. You could spend your whole life trapped in hypothetical situations that never come true. Meanwhile, real opportunity, ties, real joy, and real connections are slipping by because you were mentally absent. You were so deep in tomorrow's worries that you didn't even notice today's blessings. The truth is, joy isn't something you find in the future once everything is perfect. Joy is a decision you make to live fully in today, trusting that tomorrow is in God's hands. You can't serve two masters. You can't cling to worry and hold on to joy at the same time. You have got to let go of the fear of tomorrow to grab hold of the peace available in this very moment. Faith is not about having a detailed map of where you are going. It's about knowing who's guiding you when the path is invisible. You won't always get a blueprint. You won't always get step-by-step instructions. Sometimes all you have is a whisper in your spirit that says move. And you have got to trust that even though you don't see the whole picture, God is orchestrating every step you take. We live in a world where people want guarantees. They want to see the outcome before they commit to the journey. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith requires you to walk when there's no clear road. Faith demands that you take steps in the dark, trusting that the unseen hand of God is making a way where there seems to be none. You are not always going to feel secure in what's ahead, but you can be secure in who's leading you. There's a reason the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. Sight is limited. Sight can deceive you. Sight can discourage you because it only shows you what's in front of you, not what's being worked out behind the scenes. Faith, on the other hand, connects you to the unseen. Faith locks you into the promises of God, even when your eyes see nothing but uncertainty. Most people miss their blessings because they are waiting for certainty before they move. They want to see the full staircase before they take the first step. But God doesn't operate like that. He gives you just enough light for today, and he expects you to trust him with the rest. That small step you are afraid to take, that's where faith lives. Faith is moving when your flesh is screaming for proof, but your spirit is telling you to trust. Faith will have you walking into rooms where you feel unqualified, applying for opportunities that seem out of reach, believing for healing when the doctor said otherwise, and preparing for blessings you haven't seen manifest yet. It's not about what you feel. It's about who you believe is with you. That unseen hand is steady, even when your emotions are shaky. It's easy to trust when everything is clear, but real faith shows up when life gets foggy. When the future feels like a mystery and nothing seems certain, that's when faith flexes its muscles. That's when you have to remind yourself that God's hand doesn't need your eyes to see. He's leading you through the maze. Even if you feel lost, you are not navigating this life on your own. You are being guided by a divine hand that never makes mistakes. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are choosing to believe that the hand you can't see is stronger than the storm you can see. Every time you take a step into the unknown, you are declaring that you trust the one who holds the future more than you trust your understanding. That's where peace lives, not in knowing what's next, but in knowing who's already there waiting for you. There will come a moment when everything you doubted God about will turn around so fast it'll leave you speechless. You have been pacing floors, losing sleep, and questioning if it's ever going to happen. But what you don't realize is that God has a track record of moving at a time that confounds human logic. His timing doesn't bow to your calendar, and when he moves, it's so perfect that you will look back and wonder why you ever stressed yourself out. We're so quick to assume that delays mean denials. You pray for something, and when it doesn't show up immediately, doubt starts whispering in your ear. Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe you are not good enough. But God's delay is not his denial. His delays are divine setups. Every time you thought he was late, he was waiting for the perfect moment to make sure the blessing would be undeniable to you and undeniable to the people who doubted you. When God shows up, he doesn't just answer prayers, he makes a statement. He doesn't do small-time miracles to fit your expectations. He moves in ways that silence the critics, that shut the mouths of naysayers, and that prove to you that his plan was always greater than your panic. You will find yourself standing in rooms you once only dreamed of, holding opportunities you once thought were out of reach, and realizing that your season of waiting was never a waste. Doubt will make you settle for less than what God promised. It'll have you lowering your expectations just to avoid disappointment. But God doesn't respond to your lowered expectations. He responds to faith. And when the blessing arrives, it's going to be so complete, so abundant, so tailor-made for you that you will feel embarrassed forever thinking he forgot about you. His timing has a way of making you regret every sleepless night you spent worrying. It's funny how doubt screams loud in the waiting room but goes silent in the blessing. You will be in a season where nothing seems to be moving, and doubt will have you convinced that nothing ever will. But when God decides it's time, no delay, no obstacle, no person can stop what he's about to release in your life. And when it happens, you won't have to explain anything to anyone. The blessing itself will speak. You have got to remind yourself that the God who created time doesn't get trapped by it did. What seems late to you is right on schedule for him. You may feel like you are running out of time, but God holds time in his hands. He's not in a rush. He's not under pressure. He moves in moments that carry the most impact, not in moments that cater to your impatience. So every time you are tempted to doubt, remember, God's timing is about to embarrass every worry, every fear, every ounce of anxiety that had you thinking he wasn't going to come through. You are going to stand in awe when you see how he lined up every detail, every connection, every opportunity, and you will realize that his wait was not a punishment. It was preparation for something greater than you imagined. There's a reason why every car only has one steering wheel. You can't have two people trying to drive at the same time. That's how accidents happen. Yet so many of us are sitting in the passenger seat of life, still trying to grab the wheel out of God's hands. We say we trust him, but the moment things don't go our way, we lean over, trying to take control, not realizing we're causing more chaos than clarity. You can't ask God to lead you and then keep interrupting his direction. You are not the GPS. You don't have the aerial view. You only see the traffic jam in front of you, but God sees the whole route. The frustrating detour, you might be the very thing protecting you from a disaster you can't see. When you try to drive and ride at the same time, you are not only making the journey harder, but you are also delaying the destination. Control is an illusion that exhausts you. The more you try to control outcomes, the more frustrated you become when life refuses to obey you. It's like sitting in a car, pressing an imaginary brake on the passenger side, thinking you are helping the driver. But you are not slowing down the car. You are just tiring yourself out. Faith is about learning to sit in the passenger seat and trust that the driver knows where he's going. Sometimes God will deliberately take you through unfamiliar routes just to teach you how to let go of control. You wanted the fast lane, but he's taking you through the scenic route because there are lessons you need to learn before you arrive. Every moment you spend fighting for the wheel is a moment you are missing the beauty of the journey. You weren't called to navigate this alone. You are called to trust and ride. Being a passenger requires surrender. It means accepting that you don't have all the answers. It means being okay with not knowing every turn, every stop, every delay. It's not a weakness to let God lead. It's wisdom. The strongest people are those who've learned to surrender their will to the one who has the master plan. When you fight for control, you are operating in fear. When you surrender control, you are walking in faith. There's a peace that comes when you stop wrestling with God for the steering wheel. You don't have to carry the pressure of making every decision perfectly. You don't have to live with the constant anxiety of wondering if you are on the right path. When you let God drive, you release yourself from the burden of performance. You get to rest in knowing that even if you don't understand the route, the driver never gets lost. Every journey with God requires you to choose. Are you going to be the driver or the passenger? You can't be both. You can't say you trust him and still keep your hands on the wheel. You have got to decide if you are going to live with the constant tension of self-reliance or the deep peace that comes from divine guidance. The ride gets a lot smoother when you realize you were never meant to be the one steering in the first place. We spend so much of our lives living in days that haven't even arrived yet. You are worrying about next week's problems, next month's bills, next year's outcomes, and completely missing the fact that God only gave you an appointment for today. You weren't promised tomorrow. You weren't even promised tonight. You have one divine appointment, and it's called right now. But you are sitting in today's room with your mind racing 3 rooms ahead, and that's why peace feels so distant. Today has enough assignments for you. There are blessings to enjoy, people to impact, lessons to learn, and opportunities to seize. But if you are mentally absent, you will miss all of it. God's not asking you to solve the future. He's asking you to be faithful in this moment. You are asking for more clarity, but God is asking for more focus. You don't need to know what's 5 steps ahead when you haven't even handled the 1 step he gave you today. When you obsess over tomorrow, you are disrespecting the value of today. You are telling God that today isn't enough, that this moment is insufficient, but today is sacred. Today is where seeds are planted. Today is where character is built. You can't fast forward through today's process and expect tomorrow's harvest to show up. The foundation for everything you are praying for is being laid in this very moment. You can't work on a future blessing if you ignore the present instruction. You are praying for doors to open, but you are not even faithful with the hallway you are standing in. God's favor doesn't flow through wishful thinking. It flows through intentional living. Every blessing you want in the future is directly connected to how you steward the gift of today. If you mishandle today, you are delaying tomorrow's breakthroughs. People miss divine appointments because they are too busy scrolling through imaginary calendars. You are planning a future God hasn't even scheduled yet. You are filling your mind with hypothetical scenarios, building anxiety over days you may never live to see. Meanwhile, today's assignment is sitting right in front of you, untouched, neglected, waiting for you to wake up and realize this is the only moment you are guaranteed. Today is not a filler in your life story. It's not just another day to get through. It's a page in your destiny. It's a piece of the puzzle. The conversations you have, the decisions you make, the attitude you carry, it's all writing the story of your life. You can't rewrite yesterday and you don't own tomorrow's pen, but today's pen is in your hand. The question is, what are you going to write with it? Every breath you take today is a reminder that God has given you a new opportunity. You are not here by accident. You are are not breathing because of luck. You are here because God scheduled this day for you, not to waste it worrying about the unknown, not to sleepwalk through your purpose, but to maximize it, to be present, to be faithful, to plant seeds that will grow into the future you have been praying for. We live in a culture that's addicted to deadlines. You have got a timeline for when your career should blow up, a timeline for when your relationship should flourish, a timeline for when your prayers should be answered. But miracles don't operate on human schedules. God's tomorrow doesn't check in with your calendar. His supernatural interventions don't ask for your approval on timing. They show up when he says they are ready, not when you feel like you are ready. You have been frustrated because things aren't moving fast enough. You have been comparing your timeline to everyone else's highlight reel, thinking you are behind. But heaven doesn't operate in human hours. What feels delayed to you is right on schedule in God's agenda. The miracle you have been crying out for isn't being ignored, it's being prepared. And when it shows up, it's going to fit into the bigger picture of your life in a way you never imagined. If God gave you every blessing you asked for on your timeline, it would crush you. You are praying for overflow, but you are still building capacity. You are asking for miracles, but there's a process attached to them. There are things God needs to align, people he needs to position, and character he needs to develop in you before the miracle can manifest. If he rushed it, it wouldn't be a blessing, it'd be a burden. God's miracles are never random. They arrive at moments that require his glory to be undeniable. You won't be able to take credit for it. People around you won't be able to explain it. That's why the timing feels so strange sometimes. God waits until it's clear that only his hand could have done it. Your schedule is built on convenience, but his timing is built on purpose. That's why it feels like he moves slowly, but when he moves, it's always in perfect alignment. You have got to stop stressing over the calendar and start trusting in divine timing. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are in process. Every day you remain faithful is a day closer to the miracle that's been scheduled in God's tomorrow. The wait isn't a punishment. It's preparation. You are being conditioned for the very thing you have been praying for, but you are so fixated on the when that you are missing the why. Miracles are never microwaved. They are cultivated in the unseen. God's working in realms you don't have access to yet. He's shifting things, orchestrating events, and moving people into position while you are down here thinking nothing is happening. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not moving. Miracles have a way of manifesting suddenly, but their preparation is always in motion, even when you feel stuck. When the miracle finally comes, it'll arrive in a way that makes you realize your schedule was never big enough to hold God's plan. You will look back and see that every delay, every closed door, every no, every detour was a setup for a miracle that was tailored to a tomorrow only God could see. His tomorrow isn't late. His tomorrow is where the miraculous resides, waiting for the exact moment to unfold in your life. You are praying for God's promises to show up, but you have got to understand promises don't grow in empty soil. They grow in preparation. The seeds you plant today determine the harvest you walk into tomorrow. You can't skip the process and expect the promise. Preparation is not optional. It's the foundation that sustains what you are asking God to build in your life. Faith without preparation is just wishful thinking dressed up as belief. Every act of obedience today is a seed. Every small, unnoticed act of discipline, every sacrifice, every moment you choose faith over fear is planting something in the ground. And while you may not see immediate results, those seeds are working beneath the surface. The harvest doesn't show up the moment you plant. There's a process of breaking, growing, and stretching that happens underground before anything sprouts in public. Too many people are asking God for a stage they haven't built a foundation for. You want the blessing, but you are neglecting the behind the scenes work that prepares you to carry it. God's promises require capacity. He's not going to hand you a blessing that will crush you because you didn't prepare for it. That's why preparation is the hidden proof of your faith. If you truly believe God is going to do it, you will prepare as if it's already on the way. You have got to treat today like it's a training ground for tomorrow's breakthrough. You want a financial increase? How are you stewarding what you have now? You want doors to open in your career. How are you developing your skills in the quiet seasons? You want a relationship blessed by God? How are you working on becoming the person you are praying to meet? Preparation is your declaration that you believe in the promise before you see it. Preparation is uncomfortable because it often feels like you are working without results. You are putting in the effort, but nothing seems to be changing. But just like a seed, the most critical growth happens underground, in the dark, away from the applause. It's in these hidden seasons where your character is shaped, your patience is stretched, and your capacity is expanded. You are being fortified to handle the weight of the blessing you have been praying for. If God gave you the promise before the preparation, you wouldn't be ready to sustain it. You'd celebrate for a moment, but the lack of foundation would cause it to collapse. That's why the preparation feels so intense. That's why it feels like you are doing more sowing than reaping. God is preparing you for longevity, not just moments of success. He's building something in you that can't be shaken by circumstances. Every time you feel like quitting because you are not seeing immediate results, remind yourself that the work you're putting in today is fertilizing the ground for tomorrow's harvest. God's promises are real, but they are unlocked through faithful preparation. The consistency you show in private will determine the blessing God can release in public. What you are sowing today isn't wasted. It's the seed that will birth the promise you are destined to walk into. Too many people chase after blessings without understanding the price tag attached. They want breakthroughs, but they are not willing to do the work God calls for today. The truth is, the blessings of tomorrow are hidden inside the obedience of today. You can't skip the steps God puts in front of you and expect to jump straight into favor. Blessings come through faithfulness in the small things. Obedience is often uncomfortable because it requires doing what you don't feel like doing. It asks you to make sacrifices when it would be easier to take shortcuts. But those moments of obedience are the hidden investments that build a strong foundation for your future. Yeah, you may not see the fruit immediately, but every obedient step you take plants a seed that will sprout into blessings you can't yet imagine. Think about it. When God asks you to forgive someone, to be honest, or to keep working when the results aren't showing, He's preparing you. That obedience isn't about the present moment alone. It's a gatekeeper to your future. Your obedience today unlocks doors you didn't know existed. Sometimes the blessing isn't just the reward, it's the character you develop on the way. We live in a culture of instant gratification, but God's promises are about long-term fulfillment. The blessings that truly change your life are wrapped in perseverance and faithfulness. You might have to wait, but waiting doesn't mean standing still. Obedience in the waiting season is what shapes you into someone ready to receive and handle the blessing when it finally arrives. When you choose to obey God in the small, invisible moments, you are training yourself to trust Him in the bigger moments. Every time you say yes to what God is asking, even when it's hard, you are telling God you believe He is worth following. Obedience is the language of faith. It's the bridge that connects your prayers to God's promises. There will be times when obedience feels like a burden, when you question if it's worth it, especially when you don't see immediate results. That's when faith has to be stronger than feelings. You have to remember that God's blessings are not always about what you get. They are about who you become through the process. Your future blessings depend on your present obedience. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are frustrated that things aren't happening fast enough, check your heart on obedience. Are you following through on what God has told you to do today? Because tomorrow's blessings aren't just going to drop out of the sky. They are hidden in your willingness to obey right now. You have got to stop sitting around predicting everything that could go wrong in your life. You are forecasting failure like it's your full-time job. Every time a door opens, your mind starts racing with scenarios of how it might slam shut. But what you fail to realize is that God has already factored in every setback, every misstep, every obstacle, and still declared victory over your life. Your worries don't cancel out His promises. Failure is not a surprise to God. He's not shocked when you mess up. He's not pacing heaven when plans change. He already knew the detours you would take, the mistakes you would make, and the delays that would frustrate you. And yet, he still wrote a victorious ending for you. The problem is you keep rewriting the script in your head with failure as the final scene, even though God's already stamped it with triumph. Forecasting failure becomes a habit when you start trusting your fears more than God's faithfulness. You are letting your past disappointments be the weather report for your future. But your past is not in charge of what God is about to do. Just because things didn't work out before doesn't mean God is finished writing your story. You have got to stop acting like failure is your destiny when it's just a detour on the way to your promise. When you focus on failure, you paralyze your potential. You start playing it safe, staying small, shrinking opportunities, and talking yourself out of blessings because you are afraid of another letdown. But God's victory for you doesn't depend on you having a flawless track record. It depends on you having faith enough to move forward even when fear tells you not to. He's already made a way through every failure you are scared of facing. Your vision is limited. You see obstacles and think it's over. God sees the same obstacle and calls it a setup. You see rejection and think it's the end. God sees redirection and knows it's leading you somewhere better. You have got to stop letting temporary setbacks convince you of permanent defeat. Victory is still on the table because God's plan was never based on everything going perfectly. Every time you forecast failure, you are forgetting who's in control. You are acting like success depends on your strength, your resources, and your timing. But God's victories are not earned by human effort. They are delivered through divine orchestration. He's moving pieces you can't see, lining up opportunities you haven't imagined, and orchestrating victories that will silence every doubt. It's time to shift your mindset from forecasting failure to expecting favor. Speak victory even when the circumstances look messy. Prepare for the breakthrough even when the odds are stacked against you. God's already run the numbers, and the calculation still ends with your victory. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to trust that the one who designed your destiny has never lost a battle. There are doors that you have been frustrated didn't open, but what you don't realize is that God was protecting you from a tomorrow you weren't ready to handle. You thought it was a rejection, but it was divine protection. You saw a missed opportunity. God saw a storm you weren't equipped to walk through yet. He's not punishing you by making you wait. He's preserving you so you can stand strong when the blessing finally arrives. If God gave you everything you asked for when you asked for it, it would crush you. You are asking for overflow, but your capacity is still being built. You are praying for platforms, but your character is still in construction. God's not trying to deny you the promise. He's making sure you are ready to carry it with integrity, wisdom, and strength. There are seasons where his no is not about withholding, it's about preparing. You have been looking at closed doors as setbacks, but sometimes a closed door is God's hand shielding you from battles you can't see. You are pacing the floor asking, why not now? And God is saying, because you don't see what is on the other side of that door yet. Timing isn't just about opportunity. It's about protection. God's delaying isn't his absence. It's his mercy in action. We get so caught up in our timeline that we think any pause is a problem. But God is not just concerned about giving you the blessing. He's concerned about sustaining you through it. He's not just the God of arrivals. He's the God of preparation. He sees the weight that comes with the platform, the responsibility tied to the reward, and the pressure that comes with promotion. He's building endurance in you while you are complaining about delays. Every time you feel overlooked, every time you feel like life is passing you by, you have got to remember God's not in a rush. He doesn't operate in panic mode. His delays are strategic. He's protecting you from versions of tomorrow that your current level of faith, discipline, or wisdom can't handle yet. He's not punishing you by making you wait. He's setting you up for longevity, not just a temporary high. Think about it. When you bake something, if you take it out of the oven too soon, it collapses. The outside might look ready, but the inside is still soft, undercooked, and unable to hold structure. That's how God's timing works. He's not concerned with making you look ready on the outside. He's focused on developing the inside, so when the blessing comes, you can carry it without breaking. So when God blocks a path, pauses a plan, or closes a door, don't be so quick to call it failure. It could be divine shielding. He's keeping you from tomorrows that would overwhelm you, from responsibilities you are not prepared for, and from situations that would pull you away from your purpose. Every delay is working in your favor, even when you can't see the reason yet. We spend so much time strategizing every detail of our lives, trying to control outcomes and design the perfect path to success. But no matter how detailed your vision board is, no matter how airtight your 5-year plan looks, you will never outplan God's purpose. His blueprint for your life is bigger than your spreadsheets, bigger than your timelines, and it doesn't require your approval to unfold. You are trying to write the script, but God already authored the story. You see a small piece of the puzzle, but he holds the entire picture. While you are busy trying to coordinate your next move, God is orchestrating divine connections, closing wrong doors, and opening pathways you didn't even know existed. The quicker you realize you are not the master planner, the less frustrated you will be when things don't go your way. There's a difference between planning and surrendering. It's wise to prepare, but it's dangerous to idolize your plan. Some of the biggest disappointments in life come from clinging too tightly to a version of your future that God never intended. When your plan becomes your God, every interruption feels like a disaster. But when you trust that his purpose overrides your preferences, you can find peace even when plans shift. God's purpose doesn't need your backup plan. He doesn't need your contingency strategies. His purpose isn't fragile. It's not thrown off course by your detours or mistakes. You may have a detailed roadmap, but God's route might include exits, detours, and scenic routes you never considered. The path may look different, but the destination remains exactly where he designed it to be. Sometimes the doors that close in your face are God's way of rerouting you back to purpose. You were never meant to stay stuck in that relationship, that job, or that mindset, but you were so committed to your plan that God had to disrupt it to get you back on track. Disruptions are not divine mistakes. They are divine alignments. You didn't lose control. You never had it in the first place. You have got to remind yourself that God's purpose isn't built on convenience or comfort. It's built on calling. His plans will stretch you, develop you, and sometimes frustrate you, but they will never fail you. You might not understand why certain things are happening now, but what feels like a breakdown is often the exact process leading you to a breakthrough. Purpose is rarely visible in the moment. It's recognized in hindsight. Every time your plan falls apart, it's an opportunity to lean into the fact that God's purpose is still intact. You don't have to panic when your schedule gets flipped, when opportunities fall through, or when timelines don't match up. You are not the architect of your destiny. God's design is sovereign, his purpose is unshakable, and his plan will always outlast your human strategies. You are not here to outplan him. You are here to align with him. You have got dreams, visions, and plans for your life, but let me tell you something. God's tomorrow is bigger than anything you have ever imagined. You are thinking in terms of what's logical, what's possible, what fits inside your current resources and abilities. But God isn't bound by your limitations. His version of tomorrow stretches far beyond the borders of your imagination and includes blessings, opportunities, and victories you haven't even thought to pray for yet. We often try to shrink God's plans down to the size of our comfort zones. You will catch yourself saying things like, if I can just get this job, if I can just get this breakthrough, if I can just survive this season. But God isn't planning for you to survive. He's planning for you to thrive. His tomorrow is not just an upgrade of your current situation. It's a complete transformation that's going to stretch you beyond what you thought was possible. Your imagination is powerful, but it's still limited by your experiences. You imagine based on what you have seen, what you have heard, and what you believe is possible. But God's plans aren't restricted by your past. He's crafting a future that breaks generational patterns, opens doors no one in your family has walked through, and places you in rooms your resume doesn't qualify you for. His tomorrow is a realm where the impossible becomes your new normal. Opportunities are waiting for you in God's tomorrow that would overwhelm you if he showed showed them to you today. That's why he reveals his plans in pieces. He's protecting you from being paralyzed by the magnitude of what he's about to do. You are dreaming of fixing what's broken, but God's planning on giving you something brand new. You are asking for restoration, but he's preparing a resurrection. Your vision board can only reflect what you know, but God's tomorrow is filled with blessings that eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, and hearts have not yet imagined. You are out here setting goals, and that's good. But don't get so attached to your small vision that you miss the magnitude of God's purpose. His tomorrow isn't waiting for you to figure it out. It's already been orchestrated, designed perfectly for his glory. When you limit your expectations to what you can imagine, you risk settling for less than what God intends. You think you are dreaming big, but God's like, that's just the starting point. The promotion you are praying for is just an introduction. The healing you are hoping for is just the beginning of the testimony. His tomorrow holds things that will make you laugh at how small your prayers once were. So instead of stressing over how things will unfold, position your heart to receive beyond what you have been visualizing. Stay open, stay expectant, stay obedient, because God's tomorrow isn't to match your imagination. It's designed to exceed it. And when it manifests, you will realize that everything you thought was too big was too small compared to what God had in store. Fear loves to drag your mind into a future that hasn't even happened yet. It paints worst case scenarios, fills your heart with anxiety, and keeps you so busy worrying about what might go wrong tomorrow that you completely miss what God is doing right in front of you today. Fear of tomorrow is one of the enemy's favorite distractions because it pulls your focus away from the blessings that are already within your reach. When you allow fear to forecast your future, you end up living a life that's constantly reacting to things that haven't even taken place. You wake up stressed about situations you made up in your mind. Meanwhile, today is loaded with opportunities, divine connections, and small victories that go unnoticed because you are too distracted by what could go wrong in the next chapter. You can't fully embrace today if you are mentally trapped in tomorrow's worries. God designed today with intentional blessings. He crafted moments of joy, lessons of growth, and people you are supposed to impact. But fear clouds your vision. You are so preoccupied trying to anticipate the struggles of tomorrow that you walk right past the answers God is providing today. Fear is a thief, and its greatest robbery is not in your future. It's in the way it steals your present. Living in fear of tomorrow also drains your energy. You are spending emotional and mental strength fighting battles that haven't even shown up yet. It's like running a marathon in your head every day, and by the time you need to be present and focused for the actual challenges of today, you are too exhausted to respond with faith. Fear will have you overthinking everything, paralyzing you from taking simple steps of obedience. The blessing of now is hidden in the little things. Peace in the middle of chaos, joy in simple moments, unexpected doors opening, relationships being restored, and favor showing up in small but significant ways. But when your mind is locked on future fears, you will overlook these daily gifts. God is speaking, moving, and providing in the now, but fear keeps you looking ahead into shadows that don't even exist yet. When you choose to be present, you take back authority over your mind. You reclaim the blessings that are tied to today's obedience. Fear loses its grip when you learn to anchor yourself in the moment. You start seeing how God is still faithful, still providing, still working, and that recognition fuels your faith for whatever tomorrow holds. Being present doesn't eliminate tomorrow's challenges, but it strengthens you to face them when they arrive. Fear of tomorrow is nothing more than a distraction designed to rob you of today's purpose. Every time you catch your mind drifting into anxious thoughts about the future, pull yourself back to the present and ask, what is God doing in my life right now? Because the blessing you are so desperate to see in the future is often rooted in your ability to stay faithful, focused, and grateful in the now. When a door closes in your life, it can feel like rejection, failure, or even abandonment. You start questioning yourself. Was I not good enough? Did I miss something? Why didn't it work out? But what you don't see in that moment is how God is using that closed door as a strategic setup for something better. You think the opportunity was lost, but God's about to show you that his windows don't open until certain doors are shut. Not every door is meant to lead you forward. Some doors are distractions, detours, and dead ends dressed up as blessings. God sees where that path would have taken you, and in his mercy, he shuts it, even if it breaks your heart for a season. That closed door isn't a punishment, it's protection. It's God's way of preserving your purpose for a window that will open in the right place at the right time with the right people. We get so fixated on the doors that didn't open, we forget that God is the master architect of our lives. He's not just closing doors, he's designing an entirely new route. That rejection letter, that job you didn't get, that relationship that fell apart, it wasn't the end of your story. It was a shift. God was removing what looked good so he could make room for what's truly meant for you. Every time a door slams shut, you have two choices. You can sit in disappointment, or you can prepare for the window God is about to open. Closed doors often trigger growth. They force you to reevaluate, to refocus, to trust. And in that process, you get stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the opportunity that's coming next. The pain of the closed door is temporary, but the preparation it produces will serve you for a lifetime. God's windows don't always show up the way you expect. They don't always look like the big, obvious opportunity you were chasing. Sometimes they are subtle, an unexpected connection, a sudden idea, a small door that leads to a bigger one. But if you are too busy mourning over what closed, you won't even notice what's opening right in front of you. Your perspective has to shift from loss to expectation. You have got to trust that God is too wise to make a mistake. If he allowed a door to close, it's because there's a window that's about to pour out something that door never could have given you. You are not being blocked. You are being positioned. That delay, that redirection, that detour is part of a setup. God is orchestrating something on the other side that you would have missed if that door had remained open. So when doors close, don't lose faith. Don't stop moving. Don't sit in bitterness. Lift your eyes and start looking for the window, because what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. The open window of tomorrow will bring clarity to the closed door of today. And when it happens, you will realize that God's setup was far better than anything you tried to force open in your strength. God has a way of showing up when you have run out of options, when every door has closed, and when every plan you had has fallen apart. That's when he does his best work. You see, God specializes in last-minute turnarounds, not because he's late, but because he wants to make sure you know it was him who did it. When you are at the edge of giving up, when the deadline is staring you in the face, that's often when God steps in and flips the situation in a way you never saw coming. We hate being in last-minute moments because they strip us of control. We like to have things lined up, secured, and predictable. But God's turnarounds don't operate on your comfort level. It's until the odds are stacked, until human solutions have dried up, until people have counted you out. Then he moves, not to stress you out, but to build your faith and to show you that he doesn't need a perfect setup to deliver a perfect outcome. The reason God often waits until the last minute is that that's when your dependency on him is pure. At the beginning of a problem, you are still trying to fix it yourself. You are brainstorming, negotiating, and planning your way through. But as the clock winds down, your pride begins to melt, and you reach a place where you realize, if God doesn't do this, it won't get done. That's when faith becomes real, and that's when God loves to move. Some of your greatest testimonies will come from moments that look like complete defeat. You will look back and remember how the situation seemed hopeless, how the odds were impossible, and how at the very last second, God shifted everything. That's the kind of turnaround that leaves no doubt about his power. It wasn't luck. It wasn't connections. It wasn't timing. It was divine intervention. God's last-minute turnarounds are not random. They are strategic. He's building your endurance, stretching your faith, and positioning you to carry a greater level of blessing. You are asking for a breakthrough, but He's preparing you for a lifestyle of breakthroughs. That requires you to be comfortable with uncertainty, to trust Him when the clock is ticking, and to believe that He's never late, even when the situation looks critical. Think about the stories you admire in the Bible, whether it was the Red Sea parting at the last second, Daniel being delivered from the lion's den, or Lazarus being raised after 4 days. God moved when the situation had reached a point where human help was impossible. That's His signature. He loves to step into impossible moments and make them testimonies that ache your faith to a deeper level of trust. So when you find yourself in a situation where it feels like time has run out, don't panic. That's God's specialty. He's not bound by your deadlines. What looks like the last minute to you is right on time for Him. He's setting up a turnaround that will not only change your situation, but also change your perspective on how He operates. The last minute is never too late when God is involved. We often treat the future like it's a fragile glass we have to protect at all costs. You spend sleepless nights trying to control outcomes, overthinking every scenario, and building mental blueprints for how things should unfold. But the truth is, the future is far safer in God's hands than it ever will be in your mind. No matter how much you plan, strategize, or worry, your mind wasn't designed to carry the weight of the unknown. Only God's hands can handle that. The problem is you think worrying is a form of preparation. You believe that if you obsess over every detail, somehow you will be more ready for what's coming. But all worry does is rob your peace. It doesn't secure your future. It just drains your present. God already sees the full picture, the hidden details, the unseen threats, and the divine opportunities. You are working with limited information, but He's working with the master blueprint. When you try to take control of the future, you are stepping into a role that was never meant for you. You can't orchestrate every moving piece. You can't control people's decisions, unexpected delays, or the timing of doors opening. But God can. The future bends at His command. He's not guessing. He's not reacting. He's already worked it out. And the safest place your future can reside is in His hands. Your mind is a battlefield, not a storage place for the future. The enemy knows that if he can keep you trapped in anxiety about what's next, he can distract you from what God is due. Right now. That's why surrendering the future is not about giving up. It's about positioning yourself to operate in faith instead of fear. The future in God's hands is a promise. The future in your mind is just pressure. When you release control, you open yourself up to possibilities that your imagination couldn't contain. God's plans for you are bigger than your mental capacity to predict them. You are sitting there trying to figure out the how, while God has already declared the done. The question isn't whether the future is secure. The question is whether you trust the one who secures it. Every time you try to micromanage the future, you disconnect from the peace God offers in the present. You start living in reaction mode, always anticipating problems, always rehearsing failures in your mind. But when you place your future in God's hands, you are declaring that His ways are higher than yours, His timing is better than yours, and His protection is stronger than any plan you could build on your own. The future is never at risk when it's surrendered to God. It's only at risk when you try to keep it confined within the walls of your limited understanding. Faith is about trusting that even when you don't have the details, God has the design. You are not qualified to carry the future in your mind, but you are called to place it in His hands and walk forward with confidence, knowing that His grip never slips